Folks, listen.
Welcome to another episode of D&M, bringing questions for you that we find interesting. We don't know until the other person says, and bring a mystery to the table for all the generations. Two people from two different backgrounds trying to make sound about the world around us. They both bringing light to the questions they ask. Dina and Michael sliding in your DMs with class. Hey, it's D&M. Hey, it's D&M. D&M. It's D&M. Hey, it's D&M.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 10 of Sliding with D&M. This week, I have global, and Dina has cultural, and Dina's going to start us off this week.
Yes. Hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Just doing life and trying to keep things together and keep it moving. That's how we do over here in our household. Just do life and keep it moving. So, well, I have the cultural question for this week. And so I don't know if you watched, it re-aired on Friday night, I believe, or Saturday. I know it re-aired one of those days, but I don't know if you watched the Oprah sit-down interview with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Prince Harry and Meghan. But she had some very compelling and telling things to say during her interview. Did you watch any of it?
I didn't.
You did.
To be honest, like, the royal family is just not something that really interests me. I think people kind of, like, idolize them, and I don't think they should be idolized.
Well, so I did not watch the first airing of it. However, I went on TikTok and I was watching everybody's reactions to the things that Meghan said. So then I was like, well, maybe I should dip my toe in the water and watch a little bit of it. So I did watch a little bit of the re-airing when they rebroadcast the episode. And so what I thought was very telling is, as you all know, Meghan she's African American. She is Black, people. Yes, she may be on the lighter side. She might be light mocha. I'm a little more milk chocolate, if we're speaking in terms of like food references, right? She's a little light mocha. I am milk chocolate. But I found it very telling that one of the questions that was kind of brought up to her is, what will your children look like? And as we all know, I am married to a white man. And I felt for her in that moment. And like I said, she is much lighter than me, right? And obviously we all know that Prince Harry is a white man with red ginger hair. So, I mean, I don't know what they were expecting the baby to look like, their first one. And obviously they're pregnant with the second one. But I identified with her and felt for her in that moment because I too have gotten that question of, what are your children going to look like? And I am much darker than her. I'm more of a milk chocolatey tone. And so my question for you is, if you were to marry or date outside your race and that question was posed to you, how would you answer?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's such an old school reaction to ask, what will the baby look like? I feel like it's common sense. I don't think you should be surprised that if a white person and a Black person end up having a baby, then the child is going to come out probably looking between the two, like, mixed, right? In the case of Harry and the Duchess of Sussex, I mean, she really is so light in skin color. So I'm kind of surprised that was even something that was brought up.
But though, like, you have those generational things where, like, certain traits skip generations. So, I mean, you know what I mean? So, like, yes, she is very light in color. Like I said, she's light mocha. If we're talking on the Black index scale, she is light mocha. And he's like white chocolate. He's whiter than white. So my thing is that, you have those things, that traits, genetics, it's just part of human biology and genes, that things skip generations, right? So I think yes, it is an old school question. It is totally like an old school question. But for her in that moment, I totally identified and felt with her because, like I said, I'm married to a white man. And so
Hmm.
that question was posed to me like, well, what do you think your children are going to look like? Well, what do you think they're going to look like? They're going to look like a mix of, my husband and I, and whether they come out looking light mocha or they come out looking milk chocolate, or if by some random chance they come out looking blue black. And if you don't know what blue black is that you are so dark that you look blue, right? Right. I mean,
Hmm.
and so whatever they were going to look like, they were going to be our children. But I felt for her in that moment of, why can't the question be, is the baby going to be healthy? Right? Like,
I mean, I get why like you're very shocked by this, but at the same time, like we're talking about a family that literally ran an empire and enslaved people and did everything in their power to make sure that white people were on top. So it's not surprising to me that they are racist at heart. It's not surprising that these questions got brought up. I think Harry is the first person in the entire family to marry someone of color. And the Duchess of Sussex is very, very light in color. So it's not even like, to me, it doesn't even justify like really an interracial marriage. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like I would say she passes as being white. I know that's like, that is racist and what it is, but at the same time, like it's true. She doesn't, I don't think she would be stopped if she went to Nigeria. I don't think she would be, you know what I mean? Like she would blend in.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I really did identify with her in that moment. I just felt so bad for her. I'm like, "Oh, I know what that's like. I know how when you get that question and you're like, um, I don't know, you know,
Hmm.
maybe the baby will be red, green, yellow. Like what color you expect? Like honestly,
That's
like what color are you expecting the baby to be? Like just give me a color and we will make sure that that happens. Like, you know what I mean? And I guess I'm not surprised because, like that is an institution. I mean, listen, Britain was running the world before anybody was running the world, and so I'm not surprised that it came up, but I'm surprised in the fact that I guess at the end of the day, even though she is African American, she's super light in color, like,
hmm
here you have someone that could essentially pass for white if they really, really wanted to, yet here she is trying to answer questions about what is the baby going to look like. You know what I mean? And I don't think it's
yeah.
appropriate to ask that question in any at all, period, end of story.
Hmm.
But I mean, I guess I kind of understand why people ask that question, especially in the case of my husband and I, because like I said, I am milk chocolate. So I'm like the middle of the road black.
But then again, like it shouldn't be a question that's being asked in the first place. You know what I mean? Like I feel like in my generation, it is what it is. Like interracial marriages and interracial relationships are just part of what I grew up with. You know what I mean? Like it's not uncommon to see somebody of color with somebody who is white.
I know,
Um,
which I'm grateful that it is that way for this generation, but I mean you got to think about it. My husband and I got married 22 years ago and it's still it I mean I think it's more commonplace today, but 22 years ago, and especially us being Mormon, like most, you know, Mormons typically married other Mormons that look like them. Do you know what I mean?
mhm.
They don't really marry outside of their, I hate to say this, outside of their race. Like, so I mean, I was the first black girl that my husband ever brought home, right? The
Yeah.
first, the only, and the last, let's be clear. Yes. So, I mean, and so and he never really dated outside of his race. So the fact that he met me at BYU, this black girl, who was one of a small population and fell in love and was like, this is my ride or die. This chick's legit. I'm taking her home to mom, right? Like I
Mhm.
mean, and so I think it's just different. It's just a whole different dynamic and a whole different scope. But I truly felt for her in that moment. Like, I mean, and if you've ever been in an interracial relationship or when you're listening, you feel for your partner because, and you feel for you too, because you had to feel those questions and you have to answer those questions. And,
Yeah.
part of me just, like I said, part of me wants to be like, oh, the baby's going to be green. The baby will be green with yellow eyes. So, that's like the, excuse my language, the smart ass answer that I want to give. But,
Hmm.
the nice answer is, shouldn't it just matter about what the health of the baby is? You know, I think it was
I feel like in that moment, like if I were in that position, my answer would just be like the baby is going to look human, and that's
the
it.
baby's gonna see. I feel like that's you. That's the safe answer. I know you well enough. You would give the safe answer, and then you would give the savage answer, which would be me. Like the baby's gonna be purple, or the baby's gonna be green with yellow eyes. Like,
I don't know. I feel like it depends on who's asking also. Like if it were my grandparents, like they're old, they're a little racist at heart, you have to give them like a pass, you know what I mean? Because they were brought up in those institutions and that's how they live their entire 60 years of life, right?
yeah,
So in that situation, I would be more inclined to be like, oh, the baby's going to look human. And we would just leave it at that because that's kind of like it kind of is an answer. It's the truth. The baby is going to be human, but it's also that kind of answer that's like, I'm not going to say anything more about it. And you should understand that that question does not need to be asked, nor does it need to be answered. You know what I mean? However, if somebody my age, like one of my friends, asked me that,
yeah,
that's when I would be a little bit more offended.
a little bit more offended. You'd give the savage answer. You'd give,
Yeah, I mean, those are grounds like to not, for me personally, like to not be friends with somebody. You shouldn't ask those questions to people.
yeah. I don't know. Like I said, I didn't watch the airing of the episode the first time, and I only watched TikTok clips, and I saw people's reaction, and I'm like,
Hmm.
did that really happen? So then, of course, I had to watch the rebroadcast of it, and I
See,
watched.
but let's play devil's advocate here. So like,
Okay, go ahead.
did like she said a lot in those interviews, and I do believe like most of what she said from the clips that I've seen because it did go viral.
Yes, yes,
But at the same time, like the entire royal family, the firm as they like to call themselves,
yes.
have not commented on any of it. So the the efficacy of what she's saying basically relies on her and Harry. And just from my knowledge of the entire royal family, Harry has always been the one who is kind of like the troublemaker. You know what I mean? Like he likes to
Yeah,
do
yeah.
whatever he
He's
wants. You know
always
what I
kind
mean?
of been a free spirit, kind of like his mom, Diana. She was a
Yeah,
little more of a free spirit, and he is too. I mean, you can clearly see her personality in him.
yeah.
So,
And that's my thing is like we're basing this entire interview off of what she has said and what Harry has said, but there has been no comment from the other side, and there's always two sides to the same story. I completely believe that the entire royal family is racist. It wouldn't surprise me if they said those things, and I think that what's more shocking is that everybody else in the world is shocked about it. When these are people who are colonizers, right? Like their entire ancestry literally quote unquote owned the entire half of the planet,
well, yeah,
right?
they were taking stuff. They were
Exactly.
taking stuff. They were like, shoot, let me go in and take this, okay,
Yeah.
and claim it
So
for my own. So, yeah,
that to me is more surprising than the royal family saying what color is the baby going to be. But at the same time, um I just feel like it would be more, I don't know, I feel like I would feel safer about it if the royal family actually came out and said something about it, which they're never going to.
oh yes,
They're never.
people don't want to own their mess. Most people don't want to
Yeah.
own their own mess, especially if they know that they have created the mess. Then they're
Hmm.
like, "Oh yeah, I don't really want to own that." Like, keep it moving.
So I don't know if you've seen this, but the Queen did put out a statement and said it said that she was going to personally interview every member of the firm and get their side of the story from it, and then um, Prince William and Kate were seen in public at a London school opening, and a reporter asked them if they spoken to their brother, if he's spoken to his brother, and if the family is racist. And he said he has not spoken to his brother yet, and that the royal family is not racist at all. Is basically what he said.
Okay. All right, William and Kate, throwing it out there. I don't know. I mean, I think there will always be those racial undertones. It's just natural, you know? I mean,
I think they're going away. I'm a little bit more idealistic in that situation, and I do think we've made a lot of progress since the enslavement of people, to
but
where we
have
are
we
now.
made progress though? I think yes, okay. We have made some
I
progress.
was going to say 50, Dina, 50 years ago, you and I would have never been doing this
That is
together.
true. That is true. And I would have never been able to be married to my husband. Like he would have been arrested. I would have been thrown in jail. Like it would have been a whole ugly mess.
Exactly.
So yes, we
Yeah.
have made progress, but it clearly isn't enough, right?
No, it's not
It
enough.
clearly isn't enough. And so I just think that like there's always going to be it's going just like it was this whole thing is generations of racial undertones. It's going to
Hmm.
take generations long after you and I are gone to remove those racial undertones that have been there for so long. Is it better? Yes. Could it be better? Absolutely yes. So I just think, like I said, as a mom who is married to a white man, I completely felt for her in that moment when she was talking about those things because I'm like, "Oh, I know those questions well. I get it."
Hmm.
I literally felt for her when I watched that part of the interview just, and she probably handled it much better than I would have handled it. She was much nicer about it cuz
Hmm.
I know me, I would have given quote unquote the smart ass answer and been like the baby's green. Oh, maybe the baby will be orange. I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe yellow. Like which color of the rainbow would you like that, like, you get a color and you get a color, everybody gets their own
Hmm.
color. So I think she handled it with much more tact and gracefulness than.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, you have to understand that she has been thinking about this for a long time. It wasn't an emotional immediate response, right? Like, she's been thinking about this topic for a long time, and that's what led her to do the interview with Oprah in the first place.
Yeah.
um I don't know, I just feel like it shouldn't be a question that's asked. It still continues to be a question that's asked, but if you notice, most of the firm is above the age of 60 years old. You know what I mean? Like, most of them are pretty old. So I think that people are shocked by this, but like, think about your own grandparents and your parents. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we all know personally people who are old, they tend to be a little bit more racist than other people.
Okay.
Would you agree with that?
um well, okay, so I say this is yes and no. Like I look at my own parents and I feel like my own parents have been pretty open-minded. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? For most of my life. I mean, looking back at the things that I've done and what I've participated in and who my parents surrounded me around, like,
Hmm.
I mean, you know this, one of my greatest mentors who has left this earth was a gay man. Like,
Hmm.
when being gay was definitely not, I don't want to say the in thing, but it wasn't widely accepted. He passed away from AIDS. Do you know what I mean? Like in the early stages when we really didn't know much about AIDS. And so I feel like my parents have always been, they have tried to surround me not around people that are good people, right? They're just
Hmm.
good people in general. So I don't think that my parents, at least they have never come across to me to have racial undertones, but I feel like everybody does have a little bit of it. Um,
Hmm.
it's just, and whether, and, but we are trying hard to erase those undertones,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so, I just think, like I said, I just watched the interview, and I felt for her as a mom and as someone who is African American, who is milk chocolate African American. Like, I felt for her because I was like, I know, like, I know those questions. I know how it feels to have that question asked of you and
Hmm.
how you would respond. So I was just curious to see how you would respond. And by the way, like you, I like the royal family is beyond my scope of like whatever. Like their life doesn't even intersect with mine. But I
That's how I feel.
but
Yeah.
I think in that moment when I was watching that moment of the interview and then when Harry was also talking, like I felt for them as parents because I too am the parents of biracial children, And at
Hmm.
the end of the day, um, yes, my children are biracial, but they will always be black. Like
Hmm.
they will always be black that might happen to pass for white, right? I mean, that's what it is. Like when that's always what it is and that's what it's going to be. I'm not saying I'm discounting the white side of my husband's family. I'm not discounting that at all. But they will be kids who are black who can happen to pass for white if the occasion calls for it, right?
Hmm.
And so that's what I tell my kids all the time. Like when you get into trouble or if something happens, you are not going to be, oh, that white person. You are going to be that black person. Like there's no denying and there's no mistaking. You
Hmm.
are black kids, right? And so I always try to just impress that upon my children that, you are both and, you can pass for both, but at the end of the day, you're going to be considered a black kid, kind of like Meghan and Harry's baby. Like yes, he's probably lighter than light and probably can, but at the end of the day, because she's black, he's going to be a black baby. So that was it.
Hmm.
That was my question, my cultural question. I watched a little bit of pop
Yeah, I
culture
don't know.
TV, which you
Yeah.
know me, I hardly ever watch TV. I'm not a huge TV watcher. So,
Yeah.
okay.
I don't know. To me again, it's just I feel like the public outrage about it is more shocking than the actual information that's come out of it. And I don't know if you've seen in New Zealand some of the members of Parliament of New Zealand who are of the Maori tribe, I believe you pronounce it.
Yes. Hmm.
They came out and they were asked. A reporter asked them a question. The two head members, and the one basically said like, I'm not shocked at all. I'm just shocked that everybody else is shocked about it. I don't understand how people didn't know this.
Well,
We're talking about colonizers,
well,
like, and that's the truth.
yeah, and I think this is the other thing too. I think we as Americans have always been like I don't think we realize that like, Britain and their hierarchy system or however you want to say it, at the end of the day, you're right. They're still colonizers and there's still some racial undertones, right? Like
Oh
I think
yeah.
we as Americans just thought, "Oh, they got because, they got rid of those things when we were still doing it. They weren't really doing. No, they were. They were just they were just
It was
it was
closeted.
just
Yeah.
closeted. Like it just
Hmm.
wasn't overtly in your face. We were like overtly in
Hmm.
your face. Go out and pick cotton and let me whip you and beat you. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we weren't playing no games. We were like, we're just gonna do it and everybody's gonna watch us do it. Like they were still
Hmm.
doing it. They were just, they were, I guess I hate to say this word, but they were probably just a little more sophisticated in how they presented their racism. Like I mean that's the truth, right? They were just a little
Yeah.
more sophisticated in how they presented their racism. It was still racism, but they just
Hmm.
weren't in your face with it. Whereas we were back then, we were still in your face. We didn't really care. We didn't give two craps. We were like, yo, this is what we doing, you know. Whereas Britain, they were like, we're gonna be sophisticated and keep it in the closet, but it's still there. So anyway, that was my question, but I'm ready for yours now.
Yes, thank you for that. So, moving on to the global topic
Okay.
of the session. So, I've been thinking about this a lot recently,
Really?
and
Okay.
it's something that I think bothers me,
All right.
and I think it bothers a lot of other people. So, we talked about our financial situations during COVID,
Okay.
and I think one of the things that needs to be said is how much money these big, greedy CEOs and business owners have actually profited off of the global struggle,
Okay.
right? So the first person who comes to mind is Jeff Bezos of Amazon.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know what the updated statistic is, but he's made billions of dollars
Okay.
off of COVID. He's made billions of dollars. And so have a lot of others. And there's been a lot of controversy in Congress as well, where members of Congress were notified that there was probably going to be a global pandemic that was going to hit in February of last year.
Okay.
And some of them, they claim that it wasn't illegal what they did. It was scheduled and it is what it is. But some of them sold a lot of stock in companies that were going to get hit hard and bought a lot of stock in companies that were going to profit a lot in the pandemic, like Pfizer, like Moderna, all of these pharmaceutical companies that
Okay.
have developed vaccines.
Yes. Yes.
So I just want to talk about globally just why people are so greedy, and especially the rich. I want to focus this episode on like why the rich is so greedy when there's so many people that struggle out there, and a lot of them paint themselves as philanthropists, and they paint themselves as being for the people and that they want to help out. But to me, I don't see this in my life, and it bothers me that there's so many ultra rich people, especially in the US but also abroad, that profit off of people's struggles.
Yeah. No, because that's the way the institution was set. That's how it happens. Because think about it, wealth is generational, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's take Bill Gates, for example. Built a company ground up, right? Now, millions and billions and whatever dollars. Okay. So he's got kids, right? That
Mm-hmm.
obviously they're going to get some type of inheritance or something, or probably stock options or something. But the
Mm-hmm.
money's going to keep making money, right?
Yeah.
And so from now until the end of his line dies, or however it goes, there's going to be generations of wealth. It's that old money, building up
Mm-hmm.
that old money. Back in the 20s where there was new monies, total Great Gatsby, new money, old money,
Yeah.
and old money was the generations of wealth continuing. Same with
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Bezos. Like, what are you going to do with those billions of dollars? You can't take it with you when you leave this earth. You're not taking anything with you. It's just you in the ground, gone. There you go. So,
Yeah, but just for like context of how much money Jeff Bezos actually has, when he settled his divorce with his ex-wife Mackenzie Scott, she was entitled to, I believe it was half at the time of the money that he accumulated.
yes.
And she instantly, after that divorce, became one of the richest women in the world.
Yeah.
That's how much money he has. Like, I believe that he's right around like $200 billion. That's what he's worth.
It's crazy. But let's also think about this too. I mean, he's worth $200 billion, whatever insane amount of money. But really, if you think about money, the only reason that money has value is because governments say, oh, it has value, because really it's just a piece of paper. The minute they would say, oh, it doesn't have any value, what's it going to get you? Right? So, because we have governments that say, okay, this piece of paper is worth $1, or this piece of paper is worth $5, it has some
Yeah.
value, it has some type of like, monetary number attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's kind of a combination of lots of things, right? Like, if we don't put the value behind it, it doesn't mean anything. Like, money doesn't mean anything, but we
Yeah.
do. So because we do, we value this piece of paper, because I mean that's what it is. It's a piece of paper, people. Um, we have to have this, we have to have that. And so, because no one ever, I mean, no one ever really makes $200 billion, right? Like, think about that
Well, yeah,
number. Like,
his money is all tied up in stock. That's what it is. Like it's the company that's really worth that much money. And he could sell his shares and he would actually get that money. It would be pulled out of Amazon. The thing is though is that it used to be that way where the government had the dollar was backed by gold, right?
yes,
It would be backed by something. But now the US dollar actually functions as a element of society. We believe a dollar is worth a dollar and nobody says anything different, so it's worth
I
a
know,
dollar.
that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
that's essentially that's what it is. Like, we are like, oh, we are putting value to something that really we could just say, oh, really, this doesn't have any value, right? But
But even if we decided like as a collective to say money is no longer it's no longer worth anything, right? Say that we decided to make grains of sand our new monetary value, right?
okay,
Jeff Bezos has so much property and so much just resource out there that he would be able to get more grains of sand than anybody else in the entire US and in the entire world. You know what I mean? So it doesn't change the fact, like, even if we would get rid of the dollar and belief in the dollar and change it to something else, or even adopt the euro or whatever,
yeah,
Jeff Bezos still has, he's become rich. There's no way to make him poor at this point. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like literally the only thing that he could do to lose all his money would be to donate it all to charity. And a lot, there is, I wouldn't say a lot, but there is a few rich people, such as Warren Buffett, I know is one of them. And the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is also one of them,
yeah,
where they have decided to donate a huge portion of their wealth to charity.
hmm,
And I would say Bill Gates is probably one of the most philanthropic rich people out there, just because he focuses a lot on developing third world nations. I know that.
but
He focuses a lot on, like, he was one of the people who originally was scared of something like COVID. He was actually terrified of the avian flu. He said that that was the next thing that was going to wipe out the population of the world. Basically, that was his thing. So he spent a lot of time doing research and development on something like that.
I know,
And
but I still have this question though. Like, so yes, he is philanthropic and he's donating his money, but there's still a trade-off for him to donate that money, right?
yeah, he gets tax
He
write-offs.
gets
Yeah.
tax write-offs. So he's still,
Mhm.
even though he's donating the money, he's still making money because he's getting the tax write-offs because he's making more money in other places. Like, it's
Mhm.
just a cycle. It's such a cycle. And I honestly, I don't know how to break it. I wish we could.
Yeah.
I wish we could find a way. Now, I'm not saying, I'm not saying, we are a capitalist country, and if you work hard and you do the things that you can be successful. However, I think too that we also have to recognize that some people have a little bit of a head start than others in their being successful, right? Some people have the means to start ahead than others. Like, that's just how it is. It's just, have you ever seen that one video where they line everybody up? They're in an open field and they line everybody up and they start saying statements, and they're like, if you came from a two-parent household, take 2 steps forward. If
Yeah.
you came,
And you see how distant people
and
are
then
based off of
they do these statements, and then they say, okay, the finish line's up there, go run the race. And you see the ones that got left behind, that never even really left the starting line, how much distance and how much faster and farther they have to run just to catch up to where the other people started, so then they can
Yeah.
try to have a fighting chance. And so I think we have to figure out something. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, right now minimum wage is $7.25. Is that not crazy to think? Minimum wage is $7.25. So if you work a job, they have to pay you $7.25. right? They have to pay you $7.25, but they don't have to pay you more than that.
Mm-hmm.
And yet here we are, 2021. I mean, right now gas is $3 a gallon. Like, what's $7.25 going to get you an hour?
Yeah.
Like, that's insane to me. Like, that's just
So
mind
it's
blowing.
funny that you're bringing this up because it isn't mind blowing because they actually voted on it in the U.S. Senate,
Oh,
and
I know they voted
um,
on it. I know they voted on it. Like, now, and you have all those naysayers are like, well, we can't afford $15 an hour. But I remember watching an interview. It was very telling. It was some like special or something, and they were talking to Barbara Streisand, and she talked
mhm,
about her first job that she had back in 1950 something, and she said she made $4 and some change
yeah,
and whatnot. And I'm like, and that was back in 1950 whatever was her first job, and here we are 2021, the minimum wage is only 7.25. So between 1950 when she got her first job and was making $4 and whatever to 2021, we've only gone up in $3. Like, and think of the cost of living and think of all the things that like like it's life's expensive. It's expensive to be an adult. It's expensive. Like, and so the fact that we haven't even gotten to that threshold, but yet we have these people who, kudos to them for creating businesses and creating these things to make our lives more convenient, because really that's what they're creating. They're creating things to make people's lives more convenient, right?
oh,
And
100%, yeah,
so kudos to them for doing that, but at the same time, like, you're not valuing or paying the people that are helping you to create the lifestyle that you have. You're not valuing them enough to pay. Like, you're not paying them enough. You don't value them enough, right?
yeah.
And so it's such a vicious cycle, you know like, if you want good employees and you want good people to work for you, you have to pay them what they're worth. You have to make
Hmm.
people feel like, I am worth this. I am worth to be able to do this. And I think you need good supervisors and good leadership, and to treat them like they're human beings, and to be kind and to be understanding. And I say this as being a supervisor in my role of what I do. I always try to think at the end of the day, like, they're humans just like me. They have lives just like me. They are trying to make it just like me. And so I always, try to be kind and try to be respectful to them when I speak with them or when I email or I have dialogues with them, because I realize that they want to feel valued emotionally, as well as having like that financial value as well. And so I think these huge companies, what they don't get is that you're not valuing the people that work for you, that give you the lifestyle that you have. Like,
And that's the thing, like everything you're saying is so like good-hearted and idealistic, but Jeff Bezos didn't become worth $200 billion being nice to people. He became rich like that by making other people do hard work and paying them shit. So there's a huge push right now from a lot of Amazon warehouse workers to unionize, and that basically is Amazon's worst fear as a company, just because then their workers would be able to demand things like a fair wage, um, good health benefits, retirement packages, such things like that. And there have been reports from Amazon employees that corporate has been willing to give them a stipend if they decide to quit. Anybody who's part of this push to unionize, if they
mhm.
decide to quit on the spot, that they would give them a bonus. I think it was like $3,000 or something like that.
But what's 3,000 going to get you? Like, 3,000 isn't going to do anything. You and I both know that. It's good for the moment, right?
Yeah, but that's the thing, is like they're preying off of these people who are obviously overworked and stressed and don't want to be part of this environment anymore. You know what I mean? So they're thinking, well, if I'm going to just end up getting fired for trying to unionize or quit because of the pressure, then I might as well just take an exit now, look for another job, and I get an extra $3,000.
Yeah. No, I don't know, Michael. I honestly don't know what the answer is. Like, and like I said, I'm not knocking the ideas and the things that they have created because they're their ideas, but I also think that there comes a point that you I think there comes a point when you get to a certain wealth or status that you forget where you came from and how you got there.
Oh,
Because you're
100%.
like, oh, I made it. So yeah, I
Hmm.
got money now. I can do whatever. I can do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And you just forget. Like, you forget that you were once slinging out of your garage with some plastic tables from Costco with the books on them, trying to get people to, like, Amazon started as a book company. Like,
Hmm.
you got books. That's what
Yeah.
Amazon was. It wasn't anything more than that. Like, if you wanted to read certain books, and you would get the books and you would buy them, or I think you could rent them, right? You could rent them, like you would rent them and
Hmm.
send them back. Same thing with Netflix. When Netflix first started, there was no
Yeah, it was
streaming. It was
DVDs. Hmm.
DVDs. We used to get Netflix DVDs in the mail. Like,
Fun fact, they actually still have that service. My partner's dad uses it.
he does.
So
What?
he does.
Yes, that's awesome. But like, we would get DVDs because back in the day when Dwight and I first got married, we were poor. We had a VCR, but we did not have
Hmm.
cable. The only channels we got were like 27, like CBS, ABC, NBC. I think we got like
Hmm.
the WE like network. Like, we got the basic, but we only got like 4 channels on our old school TV with our little antenna. But we did have a
Hmm.
VC. We did have a DVD. Like, we had gotten that as a wedding present. So we did Netflix, and we would get movies that would come to us, and then we would watch the movie, and then we would ship it back, right? And
Hmm.
so all these companies, they started out like small potatoes, and
Yeah.
now they're huge conglomerates. And I think sometimes they forget, like, where did you come from? Like, how did you get to this point? You built your company on the backs of people,
No,
and you have
100%.
to.
And that's the thing, is that there's such an insane wealth gap in, especially in the US, but just in the world generally. And I saw a quote the other day that said, the issue is not feeding all of the people who can't afford to eat. We could do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The issue is that there's people that are out there that are too greedy to do anything about it. And a lot of people will argue, well, they live in a capitalist society. You work hard, you struggle, you make it. That's the means of capitalism. That's the basics. They shouldn't have to help anybody else out because those people didn't work hard enough, and those people, you know what I mean? There are a ton of different reasons you could come up with why capitalism should prevail and all of the rich people shouldn't have to do anything else. But
Yeah.
at the same time, like, if you look at it, the by percentage, most of these ultra wealthy people pay less in taxes than the middle class or even the bottom, 10% of the country do.
Yeah. No, I just think, I mean, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I just know that there has to be a better way. There has to be a balance. We have to figure out something. I think we need to pay people. I am of the, we need to pay people what they're worth. I think that you have to pay people a living wage. 7.25 isn't going to do it. $10
So
isn't $10
are you
isn't
a
going to do it.
supporter of are you a supporter of the $15 minimum wage? Is that what you're saying?
I think I am. I really, now that I think
Yeah.
about it, I do think I am. And I think, you know, we live in a time where it's expensive to live. That's just the simple matter of fact of it. It is expensive to live. And, obviously certain areas are more expensive to live in than others. I think our area where we live in is probably middle of the road,
Hmm.
but I think we have to give people a fighting chance, you know? And if we can't give them a fighting chance, it's going to be the same old, and you're still going to have the problems that the rich complain about, that people are on welfare and they're, not working and they're doing this. But we
Hmm.
didn't give them the opportunity to have a fighting chance to begin with anyway. And I know people are like, well, if they're not going to want to better themselves, then they're just working in McDonald's. But sometimes that McDonald's job it's important. I mean, think about this last year. The people that were holding this country down were the people that were working at McDonald's and Burger King and the grocery store, right? Those were the people that were holding it down because nobody else could.
Hmm.
No, like, right? Nobody else could. Those were the people that were making sure that we could still have some type of functioning life every day. Were the ones that you consider, oh, well, they just work at McDonald's and they just do this. And listen, when I go to McDonald's, I make sure that I am nice every single time to those people because I know they are feeding me because I'm in a pinch because it's a convenience and I need some French fries. So I am always like, I'm like, hey, how are you? Thank you so much. I always say thank you. I always say thank you, and I always try to be nice to them. Because I realize that they are doing me a service, right? They are making my life easier. I can roll through and get, two small fries for $3 and a McChicken for $1 and a large
Hmm.
Coke. They are like giving a service because if I didn't go through that line and I had to go home and I have to make dinner and I have to figure stuff out. Like it's a convenience. And so shoot, like, yeah, it's just McDonald's, but it's a convenience for you, right?
Yeah,
So
100%.
you got to pay people what they're worth. You got to make people feel valued because if you give that person $15 an hour, think about that. Then they might be able to finally go back to school or finally go and do the thing that they've been trying to do all their lives, but they haven't been able to afford it. Now you're giving the opportunity to afford it, which then in turn stimulates the economy and stimulates other things because then they're putting money into other businesses that help them. You know what I mean? It's an effect. So we've got to figure out a way to help the collective in general. So that's
Hmm.
me. So I guess I would say I am a supporter of, you know, give people, give them some money. Like, you know, give them some
Yeah.
money.
And it's funny that there are people that are like, well, then if we raise the minimum wage to $15, then some small businesses might not be able to afford it, so it's going to be harder to start a small business. And it's funny that a lot of people say that because then in my opinion, like they shouldn't be open, you know what I mean? And we give it's the same thing with like rich people, right? Like we're giving rich people all these tax breaks and all these breaks to do whatever they want with their money, but they're not paying their workers a fair share.
Yeah, I think it starts with making sure people know that they're valued financially and emotionally. I think you need both
Yeah.
things because if you have both of those things, you're going to have happy workers, and happy workers are going to want to help to build your brand and help to build your business. I truly believe that.
Hmm.
That's what happy workers do. Happy workers help to build your brand and help to build your business. So if you pay them financially what they're worth and you treat them emotionally what they're worth, and don't run them into the ground, they're going to stay. And they're going to be like, oh, I work for this company. It is great. It is fantastic. And we are doing XYZ. And you should check us out. And you should do this, right? That's to me has so much value, right? I think about, because we're huge about supporting local businesses. And I tend to support the local businesses where I know that they are treating their employees right. And you can see that. And you can see that their employees feel valued. I'm going to put my money there because I know that they're doing it right.
Hmm.
So that was a good question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So meanwhile, Jeff Bezos is still out there making his money. You do you, Jeff. You do you. You make that money. But just
I know,
know,
but Jeff, if you're listening, it would be really nice if you supported more people and
so
not just yourself.
well, and listen, at the end of the day, you can't take it with you. You really can't. Like, so when it's your time to go, it's your time to go, and the money is not going with you. So, you know. Like
Once you hit that black screen, that game over screen, Jeff.
the game over screen. So anyway, no, this was a good, those were two very opposite end of the spectrum questions, but they were good questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, as always, thank you for taking the time to listen. Hopefully, you are enjoying our conversations and our dialogues. If you have any questions, please feel free to message us. Let us know. We are always happy to answer questions. And I'm Dina McKell.
And I'm Michael Petuhoff.
And this is Sliding with D&M.
Thank you guys for listening. We hope to see you next week.